cipher? Anyone familiar with the concept of the cipher?
Answer?
Yeah, sure. Yeah,
well, some of you might have seen it on BET Hip Hop Event, but Cipher is usually a series of hip hop artists, be it rappers / spoken artists, pushing a message to a beat, and a lot of times it comes off the top of their dome. Sometimes they pull lyrics that they've already got. It all depends on who the artist is.
Right. Okay, cool. And cipher originates from an Arabic term meaning zero. In this case, the cipher in hip hop is a circle. So you have b-boy ciphers. Have you all ever, gone outside and there was like a breakdancing circle? That is a b-boy cipher. So what we do is a freestyle cipher, but just to take that one step further, because that's absolutely correct, our cipher is a community. It's a circle of individuals who are, through their art form, communicating and producing a spirit. And within that circle, within that community, there's going to be a set of outcomes. So therefore, we look to partner with organizations that want to showcase hip-hop in its positive form and legitimize it as a proper or a full aesthetic or artistic aesthetic and pass that torch to the next generation. That is our purpose, and our aim and our vision is to change the rap on rap. So that being said, any organizations or individuals who are interested in doing that, we're down for that cause. And I mean, what's great about the Cipher is the fact that it's a town hall. Nowadays, there's not really many places where individuals in the community can come and actually congregate with each other, free of any type of judgment. For example, I mean, there are institutions that are out there, but a lot of times they rely on barriers that separate people, whether it's religion, whether it's sexuality, et cetera, et cetera. But in our Cipher, we welcome everyone, and it's a free form, and it's a place where people can communicate across different, socioeconomic barriers, different gender barriers, all of those things. We've had, MCs from, not the best part of town, but then we also have people who come from, maybe a more quote-unquote privileged side of town. We have transgender individuals who come and spit in the Cipher. We literally have the entire gamut, and it's a place that completely welcomes it. Continuing that, what's interesting about the Cipher is that there is a narrative and there's a dialogue. We have heroes and we have villains in the Cipher. You have some guys who are going to spit from a narrative that they are a gangster, and they might, hit you with a bat after you leave the building. You might not want to necessarily cross their path. Whereas you have very conscious individuals, people who, rap about, making the world better. But what's great about it is that you have this dynamic dialogue that's going on right in front of you. So no, we do not censor what our MCs say because they need that place to vent. A lot of times the Cipher is, spoken to in either therapeutical terms or spiritual terms. We have our Ciphers on Sundays. So that's a lot like hip hop church. It's a place where everyone can come through and, you hear a lot of call and response. There's a few rappers who have a very preacher style. If any of you are familiar with Mystical is a rapper who raps a lot like a preacher. It's a lot of call and response. You hear a lot of James Brown's influence, and you hear that southernness, in his rap style. But then you also have other MCs who are much more esoteric. They're talking about, things that you see in comic books. So, you have this rich dialogue, and I think that's a cultural institution that we have here in Atlanta and in the South, because we actually tie our tradition not only to jazz musicians, but all the way back to Congo Square, where jazz originated in New Orleans. So that's a big part of what we do. Our organization stands on 3 pillars. That's respect, responsibility, and knowledge. And in order to understand where you're going, you have to have that knowledge on where you've come from. So that's another thing that we teach in our Cipher through our membership program and also through our events as well. To answer your second question, the individuals in our communities need access to jobs, and that's one of our goals is to allow employment opportunities to their MCs. And we're also tying their skills for spoken word to many other disciplines and other opportunities. For example, with the Cipher, we give MCs an opportunity to teach and have their first jobs in the classroom, by employing them to speak about the Cipher, to speak about our tradition, and show that the same skills that they utilize as MCs, they can utilize in giving presentations, they can utilize in the classroom. So we're tying that, or we're creating that bridge from the Cipher to the classroom to performances.
I'm going, I'll be there Sunday.
All right, well, Steph, I got flyers for you, so if anybody's into that, shameless plug, you know. And we also offer workshops and performances, so if you're interested in that, I also have, you know, more collateral for you all. So just let me know. Shameless plug.
I would like to answer your question, but I do not want to follow you. You talked about as an individual artist, coming to an organization, asking how to get plugged in. We do not fund individuals. You know, we're not a funding sort of organization unless you come to me with a transportation project, in which case we will have a lot to talk about. I'm more interested in the creative process, I guess. If you have a strong vision of what it is you're working on, I'll be interested in hearing about that vision. And I will just say it super harshly, right? But I don't really care. It's not, you coming to me wanting to paint a particular thing doesn't help us do, you know, community building, the community work that we do. The artistic process, though, that you go through, I think is very interesting in terms of bringing that to the planning table. So I'm not interested in helping, you know, I am interested in helping you do your project. But if you came to the ARC, what I'm interested in is how do we get you involved in the planning process and bring that artistic and cultural process that you go through to the planning table. I think that's really interesting. And I think if you come, you know, if what you're painting is, you know, really awesome horses, because there's Mason Muir has these paintings of really awesome horses that I like. Yeah. I can't help that. I can't help. That's not what we do. But if you're interested in solving a challenge with your work, I think there's a conversation there. And the challenge I think of a lot, sort of in this example, is transportation. I love aging. It's kind of like my bully pulpit right now. But transportation is a big issue in our region. And when I started at the ARC, people talk a lot about choice riders. I am a choice rider. I live beside a MARTA station. I work beside a MARTA station. I totally drive to work every day. Because I ride a scooter and I love the wind in my hair. Like there's some other factors at play. But if you didn't live beside MARTA, you're not a choice rider. You have to drive. Like if you lived out where you can only access things by car, you're not a choice rider. If you don't have access to MARTA, if you only have access to MARTA, if you don't have a car, you live beside a MARTA station, you work beside a MARTA station, you're not a choice rider. You have to take MARTA. But if you're a choice rider like I am, and you think about the MARTA experience, you think about getting in a big cement box, waiting on the weekend 20, 30 minutes for a train in an empty cement box, and then taking that train, there's something to be said for arts and culture intervention in that experience, to make that experience more positive, so that when I have that experience, it's not that I'm not going to go to MARTA because there's a trumpet player. But if I went to MARTA and I didn't sit there for 30 minutes looking at my watch thinking, man, this damn train takes forever. Right. There's some sort of intervention in that experience. Like when you go to major metropolitan transit, when you go to New York, when you go to the transit station, it's an experience. And you notice that. There's something to be said that the arts community can bring to the table for solving that choice rider problem that the transportation community probably can't solve on their own. They're not going to make, and not necessarily going to make MARTA stations more entertaining on their own. So if you come to me with your own project, I don't know that we have a lot to talk about. But if you come to me with a skill set for solving problems and bringing that creative bent to those problems, then we probably have a lot to talk about.
Would that skill set include the brainstorming of what we could do in the train station to make that experience different, or do you have like a list of ideas that you like to gather people who are in that expertise?
I do work with super smart people, but I would say some of the most interesting ideas are not created in our shop. Like if people come to us with great ideas and we grab onto those, and people come up to us with skill sets, like creative skill sets, and we'll throw out challenges. It's like we're talking at work today about the X Prize. Because if we can articulate what our challenge is in a really clear way, somebody else out there can figure out how to solve that challenge, and we'll bring resources to help with that, once we've got a solution. But I think there's something to be said for inviting the community to help us think through the challenge. Not just us saying, hey, we'd like to have more bands at MARTA Station, sign up.
But I think the key to your question, though, Daniel, is that as far as funding for artists and opportunities for artists, they're going to come from all different places in all different ways. And it's not always funding that is the resource or is the opportunity. And I think a lot of times when we talk about arts, we really are talking about the artist making the art and the funding opportunity for it, right? Versus the example that you gave, the example that Alex gave, and even what Kyle said, building a relationship where it's solving problems or creating relationships to create something new that aren't just focused on the artist completing the project that they are committed to, but really trying to figure out how you can bring your talent, your creativity, and your passion to serve the community or to serve, a higher purpose.
We're an arts organization, and we kind of tout this word, the business of being creative is our tagline, but my influences are not necessarily Peter Drucker or other business gurus. I'm not always like keeping my face in Harvard Business Review or something. Well, actually, I do sometimes, but I do. But I think the biggest influences that I've had lately have been those other projects that have been community based, and it's not just. And I know, like Alex, you and I have had a lot of conversations with other peers and things around this idea of civic engagement, community engagement, and I think the thing that I see about arts entrepreneurship, it's not just put together some profit and loss statements and some budgets and then go run a business. It's really about what is that marketplace problem? What is that thing that you can use within your process? And this isn't my idea. This isn't my development. This is a shift that we're going through as an economy, and this is a shift that we're going through in how we engage people in the arts. And I think what entrepreneurship does and thinking outside of the box and thinking about process versus product, it's shifting away, and I'm going to be a little provocative here, it's shifting away from a very Eurocentric model. And the model that we've been taught is, I'm an artist, I need a patron. And the percentage of actual revenue that comes from gallery sales and things like that is so small to the revenue that an artist could generate by going out and solving a marketplace problem. And this isn't, again, me. These are, Bureau of Labor Statistics, this is census data, this is NEA studies. And so a lot of the things that we've talked about have been published about 10 years ago, and it's just now taking us this long to kind of catch up and keeping an eye on these trends. But I want to say, and this is my only soapbox for the evening, that please pay attention to these civic issues. As an artist, one of the things that you can do is pay attention to the trends and issues that are happening out there. Because when you solve a problem within the marketplace, you don't, your income streams and things like that and what it is that you're doing will start aligning for you. It just takes some paying attention to and working in an entrepreneurial way. And I don't mean, everything is business and you put aside your creativity. It's really about finding the people and the patrons and the community that believes in what you believe in, and reaching out to them and making that belief and that why you do what it is that you do accessible to other people. And I leave that out there as some thoughts. And another quote that I would love to throw out to this panel and to everybody sitting here is Diane Ragsdale. If you're not familiar with Diane Ragsdale, she writes, actually right now she's currently pursuing her PhD according to her blog, but she writes a lot about arts and community. And recently she published a blog about the sort of tension in arts organizations between serving our donors, right, and serving our participants, the people that are serving our mission. And the question she asked right in the middle of this blog, and I don't know if any of you read it, but is, are we civic organizations or are we country clubs? Mm-hmm. So discuss.
Well, and